How do you become this fluent in Thai?
เรามีทั้งหมด7คู่ที่จะขึ้นมาชกบนเวทีนี้ครับรับรองความมันไปตลอด2ชั่วโมงนี้ครับกับมวย3ยกโดยที่มีนักกีฬาที่มาจากประเทศเมียนมาอิหร่านฝรั่งเศส
Last week I saw this clip of Mark Abbott come up in my feed and I was watching it and it was really refreshing. I've got to say, his Thai is more than on point. And you can see here, he speaks Thai to a level where he's hosting TV shows, his prosody is on point, everything is on point. Now in Thailand, you do get a lot of non-Thai looking people speaking fluent Thai. You get a lot of Luk Kung who are half, or maybe who have born here, who speak super fluent Thai. But Mark has lived in Thailand around 20 years. I understand he has his Thai citizenship now, but he started learning Thai as an adult. I think he was probably around 20 years old, yet he's been able to learn it to this point. So how did he do it? Well, today we're going to listen to his commentary on it. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I think that he brought up a whole bunch of really important points that I think a lot of Thai learners out there need to hear. And maybe you've heard it before, so maybe you need to be reminded again. Okay, so first of all, let's just get a little bit of an overview of what he's going to talk about.
In this video, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of tell you what I did to learn Thai. But if you're looking for a magic bullet, some kind of a solution that, that's what it is, you're in the wrong place. Those don't exist, and I'm too honest to sell you.
Okay, I'm really happy that he said that. If you're looking for a magic bullet, it's not there. A lot of people are looking for some sort of system or something that's going to get you there, meaning it's going to drag you to that point. It's not going to happen. In the end, all the learning has to come from you, has to come from your life experience and what you put yourself into and the way that you build the language up. You're not just going to sit there with an app, open it up, and it's going to sort of teach you there. You're going to do a few quizzes and you're speaking fluent Thai like he's speaking.
That snake oil. So, starting off, when I came to Thailand, I didn't know how to say anything in Thai.
That's important. So when he came here, he's not like one of these people, maybe he's come with a expat family and he grew up here or he was in school from a young age and so he has Thai all around him. He came in here fresh when he was an adult.
I didn't speak a lick of it and I learned, as everyone does, how to say hello and thank you. And then what I did is I learned how to say how much. But the problem was I didn't know how to answer because I hadn't learned how to count yet. So I started to learn how to count.
Now, this is the crazy thing because you get all of these guidebooks. And I've always wondered about the use of guidebooks because, okay, you've got a guidebook to say, you know, how much does this cost or where is that? But as soon as people start speaking like this, what are you going to do? You don't know how to take in what they've said. So learning how much is important, but also learning all of the things around those things that you're learning is important so you can continue the dialogue.
Now, at this point here, I still didn't even know that Thai was a tonal language. I was just wondering why they would say something to me 4 times the same way. And I was like, what? And they're like, no, you're saying it wrong. I'm like, I'm saying exactly what you're saying because I had no idea it was a tonal language.
Okay, so for those people who are watching this who maybe don't realize that, Thai is a tonal language, and that means that, now, I have to be careful saying this because if you've watched my other clips, you know how passionate I am about tones. Tones are not just pitch. Now, when Westerners see it, they'll say, you can say, ma, 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 and then they're just looking at these pitch contours. Tones are the whole nature of the voice, they're the length of syllables. And so these different ways of saying a different word, it might sound the same in English, but they're not, and they have different meanings in Thai. And other tonal languages like Chinese, Vietnamese, Burmese, also tonal languages. But he said he didn't even realize that Thai was a tonal language.
Anyway, but it didn't really matter because when you're saying commonly used phrases and sentences, they understand what you mean anyway because they're so commonly used.
That's really important when you're using commonly used phrases. Notice he uses the word phrases. He's not saying words in isolation. So context is key. But I would say, and just listening to the way he speaks, it's his prosody. So as long as he's saying it in the right rhythm, in the right context, of course they're going to get it. But he is on point and he got his vowels right and he would have gotten his tones right because he's had the ability to copy stuff. So I'm sure people would understand it. Even if his tones were a little off, all of the context of that meant that native speakers could actually understand him.
Doesn't mean that pronunciation and tones aren't important. They're very important, but in very basic stuff, they'll know what you mean. Anyway, so I decided I wanted to learn how to speak more Thai. So I got some books learning how to speak Thai, and I was really frustrated because each book wrote things differently.
He got books. I'm old school. I really like real books. And I'm sure he probably learnt it back then before ebooks were huge too. Even now you can have ebooks, but I much prefer physical books that I can hold, that I can write in. Sometimes I'm learning and I'm eating and there are food stains that drop on the book. Those act as memory pegs. So for me, books are really key to my learning as well. Physical books.
Pom in this book was P-O-M. This book was P-H-O-M. The tone mark was different. The word pai, to go, is P-A-I in this book, B-A-I in this book, P-B-A-I, B-P-A-I.
Yeah, so here he's talking about the eternal question, why doesn't Thai use this standardized romanized spelling? There's the pai bun, there's IPA, there's some other crazy stuff, the RTGS. And he probably thought eventually, I'll just learn how to read Thai. It's going to be much easier.
It was such a headache, so I thought, well, I'll learn how to read and write Thai because surely there's only one way to write pai and pom. So I learned how to...
Notice, by the way, how he says that. Look at the aspiration in his pom versus his pai, which is just unaspirated glottal stop, or it's a stopped initial.
Surely there's only one way to write pai and pom. So I learned how to read and write Thai. Now, I was quite lucky because I bought the book Thai for Beginners by Benjawan Pumsan Becker.
Yeah, and Kun Benjawan, she's a dear friend. We've been over to her house there in San Francisco. You'll probably see some clips from over there. And talking to her about how she put this book together years ago, she actually didn't have a linguistic background. So she just did whatever she could to try and make a course that beginners could actually use. Because a lot of the older stuff, it was done for either missionaries or, or maybe people who were in government service. And they were just dry. And so this is one of the seminal books for real mainstream learning of Thai. And I think most people who've learned Thai probably have a copy of this. And her transcription system, which was kind of based on the Haas system, but it was developed, and then you have the Pai Bun Extra that's used now. I think that's sort of like a de facto standard that many schools are using now if they need to use transliteration with Roman letters.
And I'm not going to go out there and say it was a good book, but it was definitely the best book at the time. And that's because it was structured in a very intuitive way, but also the alphabet. I've often seen some of my friends go to these language institutes and they teach the alphabet from A to Z or A to Z. I don't agree with doing that because the only time you need to know the order is if you're going to recite the alphabet or if you're flicking through a phone book.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And if you come here to tools.crackinglanguage.com, you can see this is actually the Thai alphabet. It's actually an abugida. So these are the consonants, and vowels are a separate species. From anyone who's taken my Cracking Thai Fundamentals program, you'd know consonants and vowels are different species. Vowels breathe life into consonants. So here are the consonants, and it's a map of the human mouth. So you can see the guttural. And so you see that's coming from the back of the throat. This moves to the palate. So all of these come from that spot in the mouth. You're looking at these 5 by 5 here first. And then in Sanskrit, it was on the roof of the mouth. They moved to the teeth in Thai.
Tao
to the teeth and then to the lips.
Pla.
Right? And so this grid here is a map of the mouth. You don't need to learn every single one of these for Thai because these are basically obsolete. The reason why you have doubling up of sounds is because to respect Sanskrit, they keep the spelling of the original words, but where these were all voiced originally, the voicing's been lost. So what he's saying is spot on. You don't need to learn the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G because it doesn't help you with your usage of those letters. You just need to probably initially learn the key letters, which basically are this column, this column, this column. These ones not so much, and this third row not so much, and this fifth row. And then, of course, the semivowels, this, and these two. Those are the main letters to learn. Then these consonant classes, which the tone rules are based on, well, bang, this first column and those, because they had a puff of air, are the high class. The ones with a stopped throat are the mid class. This is the mascot here. And then the low class were all the ones that were traditionally voiced. Because they were like that before, they have an effect on the tones. If you do want to learn more about that, get a copy of Cracking Thai Fundamentals. But again, all of this is so you can have the tools so you can extract the language out of your environment, and it makes sense because it's a different operating system to English. You don't have to learn the alphabet like maybe would be the first thing that you do in English.
And you kind of know where you are because you know the order of the alphabet. But it's much more efficient to learn them according to the three classes of consonants. They've got up high class or mid class, low class.
And so there you go. You've got the high class, mid, and low. Learning them like this is so much easier. You just see the blocks there. Once you've learnt this 5x5 grid and these ones here, all you have to do is imagine then, okay, this block, that's why I've lit them up like this, and bang, you have them. And you can even open this here so you can see how the tones map then to the different classes like that, which are linked into these. Again, this is totally free. Jump in at tools.crackinglanguage.com. Learn it this way and you'll avoid a lot of grief.
Each book might give a different word for that, but that's effectively what it is. You start with the mid because there's like 11 of them or so, and they're used very often, and the tone rules are pretty simple. Then you go to the high, and then you finish off with the low. That's
one thing that he's done here. He puts the number of how many highs, mids, and lows. If you learn it according to that map, you don't even have to do that. You just visualize the map, and it doesn't matter how many are there. It's where it is that's important. It's the GPS location.
You do. That's how I did it. And again, not through my own genius. The book structured it like that for me. Winner. Now, I don't agree with using apps. I just don't agree with using apps for things. I
agree. I hate using apps for actually when they're teaching me to test. There are different kind of language learning apps. They're the ones that you can actually book teachers on. That's a different kind of app. So you're actually using the app to find a teacher, or they might be running sessions online. That's one thing. But apps that, like say Duolingo or these other ones that just sort of take you through and then they'll test you on a certain thing, and they try and use the same structure across all languages, usually done by people who don't even speak tonal languages. They're not going to get you to this kind of fluency in the language. Heck, not even this kind of fluency. They're not going to get you comprehensible in the language. You need to actually be out there and learn the language from the world around you, or build a world around you if you're not in the country that's going to teach you the real language. Don't expect an app to teach you. And just because you get all of these points in an app doesn't mean that you are actually competent in that language.
I met someone who speaks fluent Thai, hosting live TV in Thai, fluent Thai, who learnt it from an app. I just, look, everyone's different. You do you. I just think that when you pick up your phone, your brain is primed to be distracted. I think if you find something you don't understand, it's so tempting to just, it's insidious. It's like an insidious type of procrastination, because you'll hit on something, you go, oh, you know what, I'll go and Google what that means, and then you kind of come back. Whereas when you're doing the old school way, no devices around you, if you have a problem, you sit with it for a long time.
Yeah, old school learning. There's something to be said learning this way and just not having all of these distractions around you.
Try and fix it. And you sometimes you can. You work it out yourself. And if you can't, and you finally relent and ask someone what the solution is, you've been with that problem for such a long period of time that when you work it out or find out what it is, you remember it much more, I'm going to say much more solidly, in the sense that you really have a feel for it now. It makes sense and it connects things together. Whereas if you have a problem, oh, it's that, okay, cool, boom.
Yeah, this is the problem with apps, because it's all about getting those points. And so it's why many Thais don't speak English well, because it's all about getting the points in their exam so they can pass their entrance exams. Learning a language isn't about getting a score. Learning a language is about internalizing, is about communicating, it's about using your muscles, and it's about living the language, not just getting points.
You're going to forget that next week. So, yeah, I'm anti-app. Now, at around about this point here, I've probably been in Thailand a couple of months. So at the beginning, when you start learning to read and write Thai, it's kind of cool because you'd see some signposts and you could work out some words and get some letters depending on the font.
Now you see that, you can see signposts, that's learning the language, and it's sort of sparking these dopamine hits because you're actually decoding stuff. And he says depending on the fonts. Again, coming back to here, if you come into the tools, this is why I've put this here. So you can actually type Thai in here, and I've put auto spacing in it for you, but you can actually come in then and you can choose your font. So you can actually get handwriting fonts and all these different fonts here. So there's Thai handwriting. So for some people, this is difficult to read. So I've put it in here so you can learn it. And what's even more cool, so if I write the Thai word, say pom, if you come in here, and that gives you your tone, by the way, you can come in here and click here. And so this word, I've put the fonts, it's detected that it's the Thai script, so you can actually swap between fonts here to start to get used to weird fonts and even the Com script and the Lana script. My 4-year-old daughter, as she's learning Thai, is just clicking in these and learning these as alternate versions of the Thai. So now she's actually reading Lana as well, just thinking that they're a different font of Thai. But again, the font issue is a big one because people could learn and they can read Thai for years, but then they see fonts looking like this and think, what does that say? And so you can come in and you can practice, writing over the font or even writing your version over it. So it sort of makes those links and you get the font issue out of the way from the get-go. Don't wait to start decoding weird fonts because you're going to see them everywhere and you want to be able to learn from everything.
If you're learning how to read and write Thai, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. But it's kind of cool and you can learn new words and put things together. And after a couple of months of being in Thailand, I was able to read and write very basic things. I could form coherent sentences. I could engage in basic conversation. As long as the Thais I was speaking to would help keep it within, my level of Thai. Every now and again.
And that's another thing. Depending on your level of Thai or how they perceive your level, Thais will throw the Thai back at you at that level. And so I've noticed a foreigner version of Thai that if many Thais, just looking at, say, your face, if you don't look Thai, they will tweak their Thai to this unnatural version. If you want a tell, if they're speaking foreigner Thai to you, if a Thai starts saying, okay, that's a cue. They're speaking foreigner Thai. You are being seen as a foreigner. Internally, they probably think you don't really speak Thai, and so they adjust their Thai to this really weird, non-natural Thai version. So the key is that even before they get a chance, you need to throw some cues in there to show that your Thai is actually here, even subliminally, subconsciously to them, and they'll just start speaking normally to you. He mentioned about him being a presenter on Thai TV. I used to have my Thai TV show, and you see so many foreigners there that are like the monkey on the show where they get to do monkey tricks or, oh, nalak mak, it's so cute that they speak Thai. And so when I had my TV program, I had a condition that I didn't want to be the Falang monkey there. You just treat me like any other host on a TV show and we just speak to each other normally. You don't need to say, oh, this is the Falang, token Falang on our channel. Just we're all hosts together. And we did that and it worked. There was no weird stuff going on. And then the level of discourse, the discussions that we had were in a totally different position than if we were talking in this sort of Falang context of Thai. So I totally get what he's talking about, that it's good for when you're learning that they actually do keep it there, but later on as you get more fluent, you're going to want to then break out of that. And the way to do it is send the signals to them that you are actually at this level, not here.
And you'll speak to a Thai person who beautifully helps you stay in the realms of your understanding. Sometimes you get in a conversation with someone and they just assume your fluency to be way better than it really is, and you don't understand anything. So my Thai was improving, and at around about this point, 2-3 months of being in Thailand, I was learning, I would say about 50%, maybe less, from the book, and the other 50% was self-learned. So from the book, I'd already picked up the structures. I kind of worked out how the sentence structures worked. I had the words in. I could, read and write somewhat. when I wanted to learn myself, that was much more powerful because I would want to go to the garage and tell them that I needed to change the piston. So I needed to, sorry, not the piston, be a bit more expensive, the spark plug. So you'd go there and,หัวเทียน. I had to learn the word for spark plug. เปลี่ยน change. The word broken, พัง เสีย แตก หัก. They're not interchangeable. They mean different things.
This is awesome. This is learning it from the real world. Spark plug. How are you going to know that? And if you translate spark and plug, it's not going to be the thing that is a spark plug. Just like what he said, หัวเทียน. So หัวเทียนactually means the candle head. So it's a totally different thing. You have to learn these things, and then all the different ways to say broken. We just have broken. But in Thai, we have things like pang sia. We have different kinds of broken. And that word will show you actually what happened or what's actually wrong with it. So you can only learn this through experience, through sitting and observing and listening and doing the learning yourself. You can't get all of these permutations just in an app or a book telling you this is going to happen. You have to experience the language to learn it.
Sometimes it's smashed, sometimes it's broken, sometimes it's broken that cannot be fixed, sometimes it's broken but it can't, they have different meanings. You start to learn these instead of relying on people around me. I challenged myself to say these things. Now that meant that I had to construct the sentence, go and talk to someone, hear the correct version spoken back to me, and get it wrong sometimes, get it right sometimes, but I was using it in a situation where I actually wanted to use it. And that meant that I remembered it much more clearly than if I was sitting in the classroom with someone teaching me something pretty boring.
This is awesome. Now, I know my commentary has blown this out time-wise. And so, I don't know, if you want a second part of me reviewing this and reacting to it, let me know in the comments below. But I really encourage you to go and listen to his entire clip. It's super inspirational, and it's actually a little refreshing too, because a lot of people, they're going along and maybe in the track that they're learning Thai, they think that their Thai is going well because they're getting good marks in their exams, they're being able to read all of the reading materials, say that their schools are giving them. But is that really the Thai that you want to be speaking? Is that real Thai? If you want to speak Thai properly, what he's saying is totally on point, and he is the proof of the pudding. Listen to his Thai. I would say that this is a great model to model your Thai on if you're a foreigner looking to speak Thai. His prosody is great, his tones are great, his vowels are great, and he speaks like a normal human being. This is awesome stuff. Good job, Mark. For those people in Minecraft, I'll see you this Saturday again. We meet in Asok for those people in Bangkok. Otherwise, online, tune in online. If you're not in Minecraft yet, you can register at jacademy.com and join that. That's a 1-year subscription, but we have these live events. We're in the middle of a whole live season now, and so you get to be part of that, and we're working together. I'm jumping in on Discord today, and the Discord server is being revived, so you can come in on Discord there. And this isn't just for Thai, it's for other languages too, but it's about learning how to learn languages pretty much like what he's saying, from the real world. Not just waiting for an app to give us games so we gamify being able to get some sentences right or words right. It's about really, really learning the language. I'm really curious, is there anybody out there that's really developed real fluency just learning from an app, meaning an app that has taught you the language? If you have, let me know in the comments below. I'm Stuart J. Raj. I'll see you on the other side.